Afternoon of August 12th, 2025, a devastating accident unfolded on Florida's Turnpike in St. Lucie County that would not only claim 3 innocent lives, but also ignite a nationwide debate on immigration, trucking regulations, and highway safety. At around 2:57 p.m., a semi-truck driven by Harjinder Singh, a 35-year-old Indian national living in the United States illegally, attempted an improper U-turn across a restricted median intended only for law enforcement and emergency use. His large tractor-trailer swung across the northbound lanes, completely blocking traffic in an instant. Witnesses later described the horrifying sight of a massive trailer suddenly stretched across the highway, leaving no chance for oncoming drivers to react in time. Tragically, a Chrysler Town and Country minivan carrying 3 South Florida residents struck the side of the trailer and became wedged underneath. The impact was catastrophic. The 30-year-old driver from Florida City was critically injured and airlifted to HCA Florida Lawnwood Hospital, where he died a short time later. His 2 passengers, a 37-year-old woman from Pompano Beach and a 54-year-old man from Miami, were pronounced dead at the scene. Emergency responders who rushed to the site described it as one of the most gruesome accidents they had ever encountered, with the minivan crushed almost beyond recognition beneath the truck's trailer. Singh and his passenger, a 25-year-old man from California, walked away unhurt, though Singh would soon face consequences that stretched far beyond the crash site. As the Florida Highway Patrol secured the scene and began its investigation, video footage from the truck's in-cab camera and surrounding vehicles revealed the full sequence of events. The dashcam showed Singh maneuvering into the restricted median and attempting a turn that commercial drivers are strictly forbidden from making. Within seconds, the footage captured the minivan colliding with the trailer, the impact so violent that all 3 lives inside were lost. The evidence made clear that Singh's maneuver had directly caused the deaths, and prosecutors quickly moved to file charges. He was arrested on 3 counts of vehicular homicide and cited for reckless driving, with federal immigration violations soon added to the case. As investigators dug deeper into Singh's background, disturbing details emerged. Singh had entered the United States illegally across the southern border in 2018. Records show he had previously been denied work authorization during the Trump administration, but later received federal permission under the Biden administration in 2021. Despite his immigration status, Singh managed to obtain a commercial driver's license, CDL, in California, a state that allows undocumented immigrants to apply for licenses under Assembly Bill 60. Even more troubling were the revelations about Singh's performance during his licensing assessments. Reports indicated he had answered only 2 out of 12 English proficiency questions correctly and failed 3 out of 4 road sign tasks, raising serious concerns about how he had been cleared to operate a massive commercial truck. The company Singh was driving for, White Hawk Carriers Incorporated, also came under scrutiny. Federal officials with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, opened an investigation into whether the company had properly vetted Singh's qualifications or knowingly employed an undocumented driver. Critics pointed to a nationwide shortage of truck drivers, suggesting that some companies were cutting corners in order to keep their trucks on the road, even if it meant putting underqualified drivers behind the wheel. The Florida Turnpike crash quickly became a symbol of how systemic weaknesses in licensing, enforcement, and industry oversight can converge with deadly results. The legal proceedings soon took on a political dimension. After the crash, Singh fled Florida and traveled to California, where he was located by U.S. Marshals in Stockton. In a dramatic moment that underscored the case's political weight, Florida Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins personally flew to California to oversee Singh's extradition back to Florida. This highly publicized act highlighted the growing tension between Florida officials, led by Governor Ron DeSantis, and California's more permissive immigration and licensing policies. DeSantis seized on the tragedy to criticize California, arguing that its laws had enabled an undocumented immigrant with limited qualifications to legally obtain a CDL and ultimately caused the deaths of 3 Floridians. California officials and the White House pushed back, stating that Singh had followed federal asylum processes to gain work authorization and that state law did not grant commercial licenses without federal approval. Inside the courtroom, the families of the victims sat silently as prosecutors presented the evidence. They listened to dashcam footage, accident reconstruction reports, and expert testimony that painted Singh's maneuver as a reckless act in clear violation of traffic laws. The prosecution emphasized that the Turnpike is among the busiest and fastest roadways in Florida, and an illegal U-turn across a divided median was not only dangerous, but unforgivable. The defense, meanwhile, argued that while Singh's actions had tragic consequences, they did not constitute malicious intent, but rather a catastrophic lapse in judgment. They suggested that responsibility should also extend to the trucking company that had placed him behind the wheel despite his record. For the families, however, legal arguments offered little solace. They had lost loved ones in the prime of their lives. The 37-year-old woman had just started a career in education and was known for her dedication to her students. The 54-year-old man was a father and community member who worked hard to support his family. The 30-year-old driver was described as ambitious and hopeful, with dreams cut short on a highway he had driven countless times before. At vigils and memorials, their relatives spoke of empty chairs at family gatherings, birthdays that would never be celebrated, and futures forever altered by one reckless maneuver. The tragedy also left a psychological toll on bystanders and survivors. Motorists who narrowly avoided the wreck reported ongoing nightmares and anxiety, while first responders described the crash as one of the most haunting of their careers. The Turnpike itself, long known as both a vital artery and a dangerous stretch of road, became a point of focus for renewed calls to improve safety. Advocates pressed for stronger barriers to prevent illegal turns, more visible signage, and stricter enforcement of commercial driving rules. Nationally, the story fueled bitter debates about immigration policy. Supporters of stricter enforcement argued the crash proved the dangers of allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's licenses and work in high-risk industries like trucking. Opponents cautioned against painting all immigrants with the same brush, emphasizing that most accidents on American highways involve citizens, and stressing that systemic failures in licensing and industry oversight were the bigger issues. The case highlighted just how deeply immigration debates are interwoven with everyday issues of safety and accountability. As Singh now sits in custody in Florida, facing both homicide charges and the prospect of deportation, the case continues to reverberate. The FMCSA's investigation into white hawk carriers could lead to broader industry reforms, while state lawmakers in Florida are drafting bills to prevent similar tragedies. Yet for the grieving families, the politics and policies cannot undo the pain. They continue to speak out, hoping that their loved ones' deaths will spark meaningful change, whether through safer roads, stricter oversight of the trucking industry, or clearer accountability for immigration enforcement. In the end, the Florida Turnpike tragedy stands as both a deeply personal story of loss and a larger reflection of America's struggles with safety, law, and identity. 3 lives were ended in an instant by an act of reckless driving that might have been prevented. The case has exposed cracks in multiple systems, from immigration enforcement to commercial licensing, and has reignited a fierce national debate. But beyond all the politics and policy discussions, it remains, above all, a human tragedy, one that has left families shattered and a community searching for answers on how to prevent such devastation from happening again.